Welcome, Scorpio, to your in-depth forecast for March 2026. I'm going to give you some of the big themes of the month to begin with. On screen, your event chart on the 1st of March provides a backdrop for the whole period and includes two very powerful connections to your two ruling planets of Mars and Pluto. I'll unpack that too. I'll then go through each of the influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what you can expect for relationships, for money, for energy, and also for your career. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you for joining me. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so now. As you come into this month, your traditional ruler of Mars is in a very tense right angle with Uranus. When it comes to family or emotional relationships, if there is one that's a little out of kilter, there is the potential for you to feel prickly or even defensive. But on the second, Scorpio, Mars moves into the most charismatic part of your chart for 6 weeks, joining up with the North Node, the Sun, Venus, but also Mercury. Now, Venus is going to be making way at the end of the first week, but Mercury is in a retrograde in that area through to the 20th. What's the implication of that? And what's the value of Mars being in this location for you? We're also going to see a total lunar eclipse, the only total lunar eclipse of the whole year on the 3rd. But for you, it occurs in a part of your situation to do with your long-term plan, your connections and your network. How does that feed into that gathering of players in the charismatic fifth house in Pisces? But on the 6th, Venus makes way, moving into the sign of Aries, where she is detrimented. How will that play out for you, particularly as she reaches a conjunction with Saturn by the 8th or the 9th? Now, lucky Jupiter has been in a retrograde for you in the part of your chart to do with expansion, reflecting Jupiter's more Sagittarius vibe for the last 4 months. But Jupiter does forge a very strong alliance with the Sun in the first week of this month before going direct on the 11th itself. So that's really intriguing. But as we move into the middle of the month, your ruler Mars applies to the retreating Mercury in an exact conjunction. That can create tension, but it can create opportunities. I'll unpick that too. Now, on the 19th, we have a new moon. It's the seventh consecutive new moon at 28 degrees, but it forges an electric link to Uranus. Uranus in your sector of relating, your personal expression can really be coloured in a very vibrant way over the following months. But then we have a big shift with on the 20th Mercury going direct, but also the vernal equinox. The sun moves into Aries, and that for you is much more practical. And for the first time in 150 years, the sun will meet with Neptune in that sign. The sun will meet with Saturn for the first time in this sign for 29 and a half years. So the last 10 days of this month, despite the fact that your ruler Mars forges a very energetic link to Jupiter, there is going to be the potential for the details of life to require a lot more care. I'm going to go through all of this carefully now for you, but on the screen is your event chart. So there is your traditional ruler Mars in the fourth house. Now, Mars in Aquarius can be quite open-minded. It can be a free spirit, but in the fourth house, maybe it's made you industrious in terms of being at home, so around creative strands. But also you've got your modern ruler Pluto here, and it's been here full time now since November 2024. So something at the root of your world is changing, whether it's where you live, how you live there, and who with, whether it is working from home, whether it is a separation, maybe there's been some family dynamics, all are possible. But Pluto's in an opposition with the moon. So the moon at the start of this month is in the most visible part of your chart. It's the most northerly planet. It's going to be very potent, suggesting that your emotions could be close to the surface, which for a sign like yours, which can see privacy as a premium, that may be something you need to consider. But we do have Mars in a square with Uranus. And over the last 7 years, and apart from the 4 months last year, Uranus has been shaking up your relationship sector. There may have been some connections that have been very vibrant but not long lasting. Maybe in ongoing ties, you've required more space, physical, emotional space. Maybe your way of connecting to the world at large has changed too. But Uranus and Mars are in a very tense right angle. I feel if there is an emotional or family relationship where you do feel that you can't quite express yourself, it may be something you push back against this month. But Mars quickly moves on the 2nd into Pisces. It's going to be there for 6 weeks. And one of the great things about Mars in Pisces, it will give your sense of personal attractiveness a real boost. So you're going to feel more alluring, but also that confidence can come into how you connect to people as well. But with Mercury in a retrograde through to the 20th, it is the case that there may be some last minute changes of plan and glitches. But if you have got some talents you want to express, the fact that Mercury is so closely aligned to Venus is very strong. Maybe it's something from your past that you were good at. Maybe other things have come along, life's got in the way, as they say. And Mercury retrograde would be an opportunity to rethink how you go about things. There's also a strong alliance between the North Node and the Sun. The fifth house can be about romance. If there is someone that you feel drawn to and you're not quite sure why, that may be because the North Node can have that kind of atmospheric pull in the sign of Pisces, and the Sun can enrich your confidence. So, along with Mars, I feel that you are in, particularly in the first 2/3 of this month, for a much more interactive time, even if there are some things that do change in the mix. Now, in that first week of the month, the Sun, as he moves forwards every day by 1 degree, is creeping into an exact trine with Jupiter. So, if there is something you're interested in sharing, a talent, if you're a teacher, you're someone who wants to travel, Jupiter in the ninth house, and you want to do it in a passionate and enthusiastic way, you'll really be bubbly. But Venus, the relator and the planet of money, moves on the 6th into Aries, where she's detrimented and soon meets up with Neptune and Saturn. So, around the practical sphere, if you are wanting to be more creative, it is important to have a way of outputting that talent in some kind of tangible manner. And perhaps Venus, along with Saturn, can help you to do that, and Neptune can bring the imagination. But of course, Venus can be about relationships. If something isn't quite working, it may be difficult not to focus on the downside. The sixth house can be about detail, and Saturn can be harsh, of course. So just bear that in mind. But as the days move past, Jupiter's link with the Sun is very abundant and it's very positive. It's one of astrology's most lovely angles. So you can overcome that Venus Saturn energy, but I feel it's where you're really focusing on something that you're very invested in. Jupiter is also the traditional ruler of the sign of Pisces, so there's a mutual receptivity. So it's going to be a particularly positive trine between Jupiter and the Sun for water signs like you. However, that retreating Mercury through to the 20th does need considering. It depends on your perspective. Some people see Mercury retrogrades as a time to do absolutely nothing, sit on hands, but I really don't agree with that. I think it can be a great opportunity to revisit, reshape, and reset. And the fifth house can be about enthusiasm, warmth, affection, and play. And maybe if you've not been doing enough of those things, it's time to rethink how you can connect with other people, because that can actually be very valuable to you. Now, with Jupiter going direct on the 11th, right through to the end of June in the sign of Cancer, where he is exalted, for you personally, this would be a great window of opportunity to travel. So, if you have been looking to time some kind of vacation or getting away from it, doing something more adventurous, or something to do with higher education, that's a great window of opportunity over these next few months. But on the 15th, Mars, your ruler, applies to the retreating Mercury. If there is something you feel very strongly about, very passionate about, you can articulate your message with punch but precision. Yes, Mercury's not at its best in Pisces, but if you really concentrate and perhaps use that Saturnian energy in your sixth house to emphasize what's really practically important, you can still make this work for you. Now, on the 19th, the new moon in the sign of Pisces links very well with Uranus. And that's the intriguing thing about astrology, because Venus, I should have said, also links very productively with Uranus at the start of this month. So, as much as Mars is square with Uranus could break down a relationship that feels too controlled, or perhaps is one where there are differences of opinion, particularly around home or emotional matters, another person can actually be someone you're drawn to in a very vibrant and effervescent way. If a relationship has been a little bit too workaday and a little predictable, Venus in that link with Uranus is a prompt to action to be more spontaneous. But then that new moon on the 19th is another chance to try to elevate your presence, animate what you do. Whatever you feel passionate about, that's a very strong new moon, particularly with Uranus in the mix, because the way people receive you can be fresh, intriguing, and they can be uh, engaged by you very positively. But that brings us to the start of the new astrological year, cardinal quadrant one, the sun's return to Aries, and the vernal equinox. But that also sees Mercury end its retrograde. It may see that those uh, miscommunications and blockages do immediately ease. Just to let you know that there is a post retrograde period through to the 9th of April where there could be a bit of latency about some of the things you've been working on. But the sun moving into Aries is really very important for you, because for you it's about virtue. Virtue is not very sexy when you've been having this magnificent collection of energy in your fifth house. But if you have been burning the candle a little bit at both ends, great chance to work on restoring your vitality by getting to bed earlier, being a bit more conscious what you're eating and drinking. But if you're not really enjoying your work or the routines in your life, as the sun reaches Saturn and Neptune, Saturn for the first time in 29.5 years, Neptune for the first time in 150 years, there may be something that's ripe for change. And maybe all that Piscean energy in the first two-thirds of this month is going to inspire you to live your life in perhaps a more upbeat and spontaneous way, to not necessarily just have guardrails and do everything cautiously and by routine. So maybe the lesson of the sun applying to Saturn and Neptune is, how can you use your talents but box them into something that gives you a salary, makes it enjoyable, or helps you to provide a service which enables personal satisfaction. But Venus, the planet of relating, moves on the 30th Scorpio into the most beautiful part of your chart for connection. And if you haven't quite found that person earlier in the month, or there has been conversation, maybe some dates, maybe some chemistry, but it's not quite coming together, I feel that you'll find with Venus in your seventh house in the following 4 weeks a great opportunity as we go into April to really build a much greater sense of equanimity, goodwill, and harmony. To understand how Saturn will impact on you over the next 2 years, please click on the link within this video and you can watch my deep dive. On the second link, you can join us at my new website at patrickarundell.com. We're really changing it rapidly. It's coming together, and I'd love to have your company. If you'd like to review one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. You can also order your personal forecast, either in natal or draconic format. If you order the natal package, there's 50% off. Please apply Astro 26 at the checkout. If you want draconic, your soul karmic package, there's 50% off. Please apply Draco 26 at the checkout. Both provide Syrian insights, great value, very accurate, and totally unique to you.